Imagine a scenario where 7 SEC teams are tied atop the conference standings at the end of the regular season. Before dismissing it as impossible, consider this. Auburn beating Texas A&M on the Plains in 2 weeks is the only genuine upset needed to reach this chaos. From there, it's all about home teams holding serve and Missouri winning. Georgia coach Kirby Smart said, "Every week, no matter who you play, this conference is brutal. And winning on the road is even more difficult." That's the reality of single-division chaos in the SEC this season. With the addition of Texas and Oklahoma, the SEC's new championship format has left behind the beloved two-division system that served as the backbone of the conference's growth. The East and West divisions produce some of the most anticipated games, often acting as a de facto playoff for the BCS and college football playoff. Let's break down the possible scenario. If Auburn beats Texas A&M, Ole Miss wins at home against Georgia, Georgia wins at home against Tennessee, Texas A&M defeats Texas, LSU or Alabama wins out, and Missouri also wins out. We are left with 7 teams with identical 10-2 records and 6-2 conference records. The SEC tiebreaker formula must find 2 teams from these 7 to play in the conference championship. A single game that could decide a college football playoff berth for one team while knocking another out. All of this happening in the final weekend. Explaining the SEC's tiebreaker process could leave you scratching your head, but here's the short version. If all else fails, the final tiebreaker is a random draw between the remaining teams. A random draw. Now, let's move on to the most straightforward paths to the SEC championship game. As of this week's games, here's how teams can reach Atlanta. Texas A&M, the only team that controls its destiny, win out at Auburn, Texas, and the Aggies are in their first SEC championship game. Georgia, win out at Ole Miss, Tennessee, and hope for a Texas A&M loss. Tennessee, win out Mississippi State at Georgia, at Vanderbilt, and hope LSU loses. Texas, win out Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, Texas A&M, and I hope LSU and Georgia lose. LSU, win out Alabama, at Florida, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, and hope for losses from Georgia, Texas, and Texas A&M, plus a Tennessee loss. Alabama, win out at LSU, Oklahoma, Auburn, and hope Georgia, LSU, Texas, and Texas A&M all lose. Ole Miss, win out Georgia, Florida, Mississippi State, and chaos ensues. Missouri and Vanderbilt, win out, and well, we're talking about an extinction-level event. This is where the absolute chaos begins. The only guaranteed college football playoff spot goes to the SEC champion. With multiple teams in this scenario having playoff-worthy resumes, it's doubtful that 5 SEC teams will make the playoffs. In this chaos, an Auburn win over Texas A&M, followed by an Aggies victory over Texas, could prevent both teams from reaching the SEC championship and the playoff. This will undoubtedly spark discussions about the college football playoff format, especially with the new 12-team field in 2026. The SEC and Big Ten are already discussing automatic qualifiers. When the playoff expands to 14 or 16 teams, it's not hard to see a blue blood program like Texas or Alabama being left out due to a brutal SEC schedule. Imagine this. 7 teams tied atop the SEC standings in the final week. If chaos unfolds and Texas or Alabama stays home from the playoff, while a second team from the Big 12 or ACC makes it, the fallout will be tremendous. The SEC will have to figure out how to respond, and trust me, it won't be pretty. This, my friends, will be chaos.